Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable Mrs. Sri Supi Achayati and all of my beloved friend. We are from Group 10 and today we will present it about language-centered car design, skill-centered car design, and then learning-centered car design. Before we start presentation, let me introduce our group. My name is Salwana Dewi and then my friend is Salma Salsabila, Jihan Anur Faida, and Muhammad Zulfazi Al-Haq. And next slide, I will explain about introduction course design. According to Hutchison and Waters, 1987, course design is the process by which the raw data about learning need interpreted in order to produce an integrated set of teaching learning experience, whose ultimate aim is to lead the learner to a particular state of knowledge. This entails the use of the theoretical and empirical information available to produce a syllabus to develop a methodology for teaching this material and establish evaluation procedures by which progress toward the specific goal will be measured. Three main approaches to course design can be identified: language-centered, skill-centered, and learning-centered. And next slide would be explained by Salma Salsabila. The time is yours.
And then language-centered course design. Language-centered approach is the simplest and more familiar to kinds to English teachers. It is an approach that focuses on the linguistic performance of the learner in the target situation. Hutchison and Waters, 1987-65. And then this approach aims to draw direct connection between target situation and the content of ESP course. Its process as follows: identify learner's target situation and select theoretical view of language, and then identify linguistic features of target situation, and next create syllabus, and then decide material to exemplify syllabus items, and next establish evaluation producer to test a question of syllabus items. However, it has a number of weaknesses. Number one, it starts from the learner and their needs. It might be considered a learner-centered approach. The learner is simply used as a means of identifying the target situation. Number two, it is a static of inflexible procedure which can take little account of the conflict and contradiction that are inherent in any human endeavor. Number three, it appears to be systematic. The fact that knowledge has been systematically analyzed and systematically presented does not in any way imply that I will be systematically learned. Learners have to make the system meaningful to themselves, and unfortunately, we have to admit that we do not know enough about how the mind actually goes about creating its internal system of knowledge. Number five, it gives no acknowledgement to factor which must inevitably play part in the creation of any course. Data is not important in itself. Number five, the language-centered analysis of target situation data is only at the surface level. It reveals very little about the competence that underlines the performance.
Skill-centered course design. This approach aims at helping learners to develop skills and strategies which will continue after the ESP course. Its aim is not only to provide language knowledge, but to make the learners into better processors of information. The figure below presents this model. Identify target situation, theoretical view of language, analyze skill or strategies required to cope in target situation, theoretical view of learning, read syllabus, select text and read exercises to focus on skill or strategies in syllabus. Establish evaluation procedure which require the use of skill or strategies in syllabus. The skill-centered approach is founded on two fundamental principles: theoretical hypothesis and pragmatics. The basic theoretical hypothesis is that underlying any language behavior are certain skills and strategies which the learner uses in order to produce or comprehend discourse. The pragmatic basis for the skill-centered approach derives from a distinction made by Windowson between goal-oriented courses and process-oriented courses. Hutchinson and Waters state the role needs analysis in this approach is to help the USP practitioner discover the potential knowledge and competences of the learner and their perspectives of the target situation. Skill-centered model view language in terms of how the mind of the learner processes it rather than as an entity in itself. In addition, it tries to build on the positive factor that the learners bring to the course rather than just on the negative idea of lack. Finally, it frames its objectives in open-ended terms, so enabling learners to arrive at least something. Yet, in spite of its concern over the learner, the skill-centered approach still approaches the learner as a user of language rather as a learner of language.
A learning-centered course design. A learning-centered course differs from a traditional teaching-centered, language or skill-centered course in several ways. Weimer 2002. This approach is based on the principle that learning is totally determined by the learners. As the teachers, we can influence what we teach, but what learners learn is determined by learners alone. In this approach, learning is seen as a process in which the learners use what knowledge or skill they have in order to make sense of the flow of new information. Learning is not just a mental process. It is a process of negotiation between individuals and society. And this has two implications. The course design has two implications. A. Course design is a negotiated process. There is no single factor which has an outright determining influence on the contents of the course. The ESP learning situation and the target situation will both influence the nature of the syllabus, materials, methodology, and evaluation procedures. Similarly, each of these components will influence and be influenced by the others. Then, B. Course design is a dynamic process. It does not move in linear fashion from initial analysis to completed course. Need and resource vary with time. The course design therefore needs to have built-in feedback channels to enable the course to respond to development. So that is a table. The learning center course design process is shown in this diagram. First, it identify learners, then theoretical views of learning, analyze learning situation, analysis target situation, theoretical views of language, then identify attitudes, want, potential of learners, or identify needs, potential, constraints of learning or teaching situation. So identify skills and knowledge needed to function in the target situation. And last, identify attitudes, want, potential of learners, identify needs, potential, constraints of learning teaching situation.
And next, I will read the conclusion. Core design is the process by which the raw data about learning need interpreted in order to produce an integrated series of teaching learning experience. Number 1. Language-centered core design or language-oriented core design, it aims to examine the direct relationship between target, evaluation analysis, and composition of the ESP course. Number 2. Skill-centered core design or skill-oriented core design formed in two basic principles are theoretical hypothesis and pragmatic. Number 3. A learning-centered approach or oriented approach to learning, based on the principle that learning is determined by the teacher in total. Learning is seen as a process where students use the knowledge or skill they have to make sense of the new flow of information. In conclusion, we must look beyond of the competencies that allow someone to perform, because what we really want to write is not the competency itself, but how someone get it. Maybe enough. That's all from us. Thank you for attention, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.